Now that the Eliksni are allies with the humans, there are eventually plans to integrate their living quarters directly into the city. Instead of being sectioned off in their own camp for just the Eliksni, they would be our neighbors, living alongside us in the same streets, the same apartment complexes and houses, and things like that. This, of course, is once their trust is gained. When this happens though, most Eliksni will begin to wonder what human life is like. Why do we do certain things the way we do? Today we're going to read some stories where clueless Eliksni are observing human tasks. Eido takes notes on things like humans kissing, she's appalled by crucible matches, learning about partying, and tons more. Today's stories come from the Titan armor set from the Solstice of Heroes. If you would like to read it, you can find it all there in each piece of armor, and we'll go through that in this video, starting with the helmet and then all the way down to the mark. The first story is how Eido sees humans kissing. She says, "Today I witnessed a human mating ritual that I had only seen tangentially referred to in the Techian archives. It involves two humans pressing their intake orifice against each other. It is most often brief, but more advanced forms involve the use of mastication organs and the exchange of the mild digestive secretions. I witnessed two young adults touching orifices in this matter for some time. They were quite enthralled by it and proceeded for several minutes, stopping only when they noticed me taking notes." So that's a pretty funny card. Eido is just watching these strangers in the city kissing, and she begins taking notes on it. That's what this whole video is about, certain stories just like this one. Here's the second one. Today another misunderstanding resulted in conflict. Clyfix, a young engineer, was tasked with repairing our shank. The machine was damaged during the escape from Europa, and we needed her advanced diagnostics capabilities. Clyfix repaired what he could and then set about searching for replacement parts. He identified a pile of scrap that served our purpose and started fashioning the needed parts. While Clyfix was working, a human emerged from a nearby dwelling and began shouting at him. Clyfix didn't understand the man's words, but he understood the angry tone, so he took the needed scrap and fled. As it so happened, Clyfix took scrap pieces that were parts to a vintage sparrow that the man was intending to rebuild. Clyfix never considered such a thing because, on a catch, scrap is a shared resource. The idea of hoarding scrap for some imagined purpose is strange indeed to the Eliksni, the spider notwithstanding. Luckily, Clyfix told his tale and I worked with Ikora to repay the man. Crisis was averted and Clyfix learned an important lesson. To humans, control over a thing is often more valuable than the thing itself. Our next one deals with the Crucible and how Fallen or Eliksni and Eido specifically don't really get the point of it and are kind of frightened by it. Today I viewed the Crucible through a feed spliced by one of Misrax Kel's apprentices. It was a shocking and horrifying experience. A record of that feed can be found in the addendum of this report. I had seen the Crucible referenced in the records of the Cryptarchs, who have been most welcoming and eager to exchange data. Historically, the Crucible was a trial by combat, similar to the Cabal Rite of Proving. It was a neutral ground for parties to engage in violence without civilian casualties. However, over centuries it evolved into a blood sport, practiced for combat experiences, commerce, and enjoyment. However, no amount of study could prepare one for the depravity of this event. Humans immolate each other, melting flesh beneath unpenetrated armor. They drive swords through each other's faces, reveling in the creation of deformity. They unleash bursts of void and darkness, consuming each other's bodies with anti-life. The amount of precious ammunition that goes wasted in every match would be punishable by docking in some Eliksni houses. After the arbitrary conditions for the victory have been met, the messengers of the Great Machine emerge. They resurrect the dead, who then sulk off the field as if eternal life were nothing compared to the loss of a sporting match, and then the whole practice begins again. The experience has made me weary of our new hosts. They are much more like the Cabal than I had imagined. Humans clearly have the capacity for peace, but they seem to prefer violence. And as long as the Great Machine blesses them, violence will be their way. Today, another misunderstanding resulted in joy. Clyfix, a young engineer, watched a human struggle with a large machine. No matter what she did, it continued to billow a thick, oily smoke. Curious, Clyfix waited until the human gave up in frustration. After the streets were dark, Clyfix examined the machine himself. Determined to earn the human's trust, Clyfix stole the machine and took it back to House Light. He worked through the night to repair it, using our scrap as a gesture of goodwill. When morning came, Clyfix returned the machine and watched from afar, eager to see the woman's excitement. She turned it on and watched in astonishment as it rolled smoothly down the road. It still emitted traces of smoke, but at least it moved. To Clyfix's chagrin, the woman flew into a rage. As I later learned, producing smoke was the machine's whole purpose, something to do with the curing of animal flesh. I myself was not certain of the details. Although the machine no longer produces smoke in an appropriate manner, it now travels upwards of 20 kilometers per hour on very little fuel. The neighborhood children have been riding it along the street all day. I even saw them gathering supplies to add a steering system. In the end, Clyfix and I agree that it's a great thing that he has done. Today I witnessed a human ritual that I long thought a myth, or at least over-researched relative to its cultural impact. That is, the indigestion of ethanol to induce euphoria and knowingly hinder judgment. When I first learned of this practice in the Techian's data archives, it seemed preposterous. Why would a predominantly aqueous creature willingly ingest a substance that causes its body to purge liquid? What was the goal? Today I discovered the answer: partying. Based on my observations near community ethanol distribution centers, partying is a distinctly human form of enjoyment. It is similar to many Eliksni celebrations, a social gathering meant to foster group cohesion. But the human version involves collective self-poisoning, for which there is no parallel in Eliksni society. Apparently, partying involves a loose constellation of behaviors: speaking much more loudly than normal, making an increased amount of bodily contact, the purging of partially digested food, walking in eccentric patterns, expressions of fondness, increased laughter, public displays of sorrow, and coordinating yelling to previously recorded sounds. Having witnessed the prevalence of ethanol consumption in the last city, I can safely conclude that, if anything, the behavior is under-researched. Humans' fondness for poisoning themselves is prolific. It's a wonder their species has lasted this long. I admit to curiosity as to the perceived effects of ethanol consumption, because it cannot feel as terrible as it looks. However, I am reluctant to engage in human partying because I'm not sure an Eliksni could survive it. So there you have it, Guardians, 5 stories where the Eliksni are observing and interacting with humans. If you'd like to see some more lore and mysteries just like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. My name's Eido, and I'll catch you, Guardians, in the next one.